and welcome to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor. I'm Peg Beer, and I'm sitting in for Debbie Kapp, who is taking a little break right now. And we have a really cool topic for you during a hot time. And we have a very cool young man to present, okay? We have with us today James White. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Peg.
James is, among many other things, at our Fair Oaks location, particularly an expert in water gardening, and he's hands-on. He does it himself. Got lots going on at your house, right?
Yeah, we've got a couple ponds at the house. Keeps me busy.
Couple of ponds is putting it mild. I think they're pretty good-sized ponds, right?
Yeah, pretty good size.
Yeah. James does a lot of koi, and he's been really very closely connected with water because he did a lot of scuba diving and a lot of whatever.
Yeah, early in my life, I was a scuba diver, and I've always kept fish in aquariums, and it's always been my hobby.
So he's really quite the expert on it. He's going to share some thought processes as we go through today. But woo, it has been a warm week, and yes, it is July. So let's bring up that very first picture that says, water gives us a really cooling effect.
Yes, everybody wants a little water in their garden, and we thought we'd start off with something small like this.
Have you been there?
No, actually, I haven't been to Niagara Falls. It's quite spectacular.
I have, and it gave me chill bumps. I just looked at it, and did I want to be in that boat down there or walk behind it? I really didn't. I was very happy to look from a distance. So we'll let that one go for the moment, and we're going to come back to water gardening after we make a couple of announcements. Number one, we will be receiving phone calls today. James has, as I said, an awful lot to share with you, and hopefully you'll have some questions that I know that he'll be able to answer. By way of announcements, I do want to say that our tent sales are continuing at all 3 locations, and we get a lot of excitement over that, don't we, James?
Oh yeah, we've got people coming weekly checking our tent sales, and there's a lot of good things there. If you're interested in something from Christmas or any other time of the seasons, we've got it all.
Lots of bargains, you know, and they're replenished almost on a daily basis, so it's ever changing. If you enjoy those bargains, you have to come frequently. Now, the other news is incredibly exciting. I do have a lot of people come up to me and say, ooh, I don't have cable. I have DirecTV, or I have this or that. We are now on Direct TV.
Right.
All of News Channel 8 is on DirecTV, so if your friends haven't been able to get our show in the past, they can get it now. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, opens up a lot of a different customer base to us now, and we can share all of this with them. Let's go through some of the simplest of the water gardens. Let's bring up the first picture and share your thoughts with this.
Well, this is a bowl, a small bowl. It can be used in the garden anywhere. It can be placed near the sitting area or along a path, and a few plants that like to be in wet feet would be a great addition to any little bowl like this. And sometimes we have visitors to the little bowl or the pond, so it's a nice little surprise in the garden.
Yeah, let's go to the next picture, and you can see some of those little visitors. You know, you have to look kind of carefully, don't you?
Yeah, right on the rim of this bowl, there's a frog, and then if you look a little close at the 6 o'clock position there's another frog that's already claimed this bowl as his home. So they're having a little conversation there about who's going to stay and who's going to move on, I guess.
I think so. And actually this happened to be in my own garden because I'm fascinated with the water gardens. And it's an easy way to do it. There's actually no pump involved with this one.
Right.
And the frogs did come. It's fun. But there are other ways that you can have the feeling of coolness in water. In the third picture, don't you find that these fountains, once people really are instructed as to how to take care of them, it's okay?
Yeah, absolutely. These are very popular. Disappearing fountain, where the water is all contained in a reservoir beneath the structure. In the pump just recirculates the water. It's very easy to maintain with a minimal amount of care, and it can be a all year-round interest. If you set it up right, you can let it run over the winter as well, and can be an attractor for birds.
I think it's wonderful. I like the fountains, and I do have a simple one, again, in my own back garden, since I have such a fascination for all of this. And we have another picture that I'd love to share with you in this particular one.
Yeah, this is another small bowl with a urn that's been turned on its side, and the water pumps up through it and just pours back out. Very simple, but yet, you know, gives the sound of water in the garden. And it's kind of a nice little change on water gardening.
I think that it's very exciting, and actually, since I think we have time in this segment, let's go to the next picture, even though it's supposedly in the next block, because we can talk about, these are actually that the proper term?
Right.
Recirculating fountains, okay.
Recirculating fountains where all the water is contained in a reservoir beneath it, and the water's just pumped through the feature and recirculates back into the holding tank. Very easy to maintain once they're set up.
Actually, that pump is down in that basin, right?
Right, yeah. It's beneath it.
Just needs to be taken out every now and then and cleaned?
Yep, you can access it and clean it, spray it off with the hose, and literally it can run all the time.
And even in the wintertime, if you're careful?
If it's set up properly, we can help you with a little guidance for a pump that would run over the winter. If the pond is, or the fountain is set up properly, it's no problem. It can be run all winter long, or it can be set up for easy winterization where you can shut it down and take the pump into the garage or inside the basement for the winter and just leave the piece stand as a statue in the garden.
As long as it's not sitting in water, right?
Right, as long as we do elevate it a little bit, and that's easily done with a few little risers that can be placed when the system's set up.
Right. Now, we are going to talk more about this and actually show you the building of a pond in our next segment.
Right.
So we will be back with James White, our expert today, in just a moment. Welcome back to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor and to our cool topic of the day. Guess what? Water gardens. And we have water specialist James White with us to talk more about it, you know. James, I know that you're fascinated with all of this, and you've got all of the things here that we may or may not have a chance to show all of them, but we're going to progress through some pictures so that you can realize how many different types of water gardens are available out there. It can be just a basin like the little one that's in front of me here, which I also will have within the garden with the pretty little glass balls floating around in it. Now, just a quick little thing about mosquitoes, because everybody is concerned about mosquitoes.
Certainly, yes.
Yeah.
Everyone's concerned about mosquitoes, and no one likes to feed mosquitoes unnecessarily. So
I don't.
We have a couple of natural products that can be used in the water features to deter mosquitoes. The larvae won't be able to survive the exposure to natural occurring bacteria. It's the same bacteria that is used by the county and state. It's a natural product, so it's very safe in the environment. Nothing dangerous about it, and it kills the larvae in the water. So in any type of small feature, like a bird bath or these small water gardening bowls that we're describing, any water that's standing could be treated with this product, and it's very safe and very responsible way to eliminate mosquito larvae. And then for a larger pond or water feature, we do offer fish that will eat the larvae of the mosquitoes and keep their population in check, as well as these products can be used with ponds because they're fish safe and completely safe for birds and other animals. So there's ways to deal with those mosquitoes. Of course, wearing some sort of personal mosquito protection might be important for you as well to keep them from biting you.
Right. Well, I've never had an issue with moving water.
Right.
Or where there are fish in it to eat the larvae. This is standing water that is an issue, or is for me, and I'm incredibly concerned about that because I am very, very mosquito magnet. That's
Right.
for sure. Let's go to some of these pictures and roll through some of them because it talks more about some of these water gardens that are just very easy to install and maintain.
Right. We're going to discuss a little bit of maintenance here in this segment. This is a particularly nice semi-formal design. This has the patio area around it with the recirculating urn. The pump is located beneath the urn in this situation, and it allows for the water to recirculate up through the urn, giving you the sound and the motion in the garden. And I really love how they've integrated it into the patio with the seating area nearby. So it's a really interesting place to stop and enjoy the garden.
I love it. And the next one is actually in my own garden, and James has been there and gave some assistance with setting this up. It's in the edge of the woodland, and it's been in now for several years.
Yeah.
And I've had no problems with it.
Right. We did this installation at Peg's house in her garden area, and it's a woodland setting, as she mentioned. And as you come along the path, you kind of discover this urn sitting there in the woodland setting with the seating area nearby, and it's very nice along the path to discover something like this in the garden. So it's a great accent, and you've let it run, I think.
I've let it run.
Yeah.
I don't think it's safe that I've let it run over winter necessarily, but I happen to do that. I don't recommend it.
Yeah, we've kind of been a little bit experimental with this one in Peg's garden just to see what it could take, and it's done quite well. And I know that anytime you have moving water in the garden, it attracts birds, and I'm sure that many birds visit this in Peg's garden and get a little drink of water.
And the next picture, you had mentioned a seating area, and that was important to me.
Right. Peg wanted a bench or a seating area around this about bench height, so we constructed it above ground because of the extensive amount of large hardwood trees in her garden. We didn't want to excavate into the soil, so we placed this above ground. You'll see in some of the next photos how we set the base up for it with a bed of stone gravel so that it's sitting on a sturdy surface, but it didn't disturb any tree roots, and then built up around it with the rocks around. The plastic containers completely concealed, and no tree roots were disturbed or harmed.
Let's go through these. Just to mention briefly, I put these pictures in, of course, before we actually show them the installation.
Right.
James.
This shows the finished product, and it's actually been in for at least about 2 years now, and the plants around it have had a chance to mature. Peg also plants some annuals around this. We left planting area for annuals, so there's color all season long in the summer season.
I do enjoy that, and one of those plants happens to be the clump bamboo. This is not a bamboo, it is invasive, and it's very in keeping with, I think, the pond look.
Yeah,
but
the semi-Asian style of the pebble pot there is definitely accented with the clump bamboo, and this is a clump form of bamboo. It's not a running form, so you don't have to worry about it taking over the whole garden.
In the next few pictures, as we go through those, James, you can again reiterate the fact that there was established old trees there, and I
Right.
really didn't want to dig down into those.
Right, we didn't want to harm any tree roots in this installation, so everything was done above ground, and this is the base being put down that the disappearing fountain plastic reservoir actually sits on as a stable level environment for it as a starting point.
Yes, then the next picture, yes, you'll see that.
This is the actual reservoir going into place. This large 4x4 reservoir holds about 200 gallons of water, and the pump is concealed inside this.
And it's strong enough to hold that. There it is, and
Right.
they're beginning to build up the wall around
Right,
it.
here they are installing the wall around the container. My fish were deep in the pond this week with the hot temperatures. This is a really nice little woodland setting again with a natural look pond. It's a liner pond with a stone surround and a waterfall at the end. Here's a good shot of another waterfall.
And the water plants you mentioned here, they're so beautiful.
Yeah, we like the big lotus, the disc-shaped leaves in the foreground there on either side. And those are lotus. They'll generate a nice flower. Those are hardy. They'll winter over in the pond with no problem. And then there's water lilies and water hyacinth also floating on the surface of the water, just between the lotus leaves and the waterfall there in the background. The waterfall is important because it gives us the sound of water in the garden, and that's an important feature for a lot of folks.
Now, if we can come back to James just for a moment, I would really like to elaborate just a little bit on the types of these gardens, because they're two totally different emphasis. The one is on the koi,
right,
and the other one probably doesn't have koi and has crowfish,
right,
and therefore they have plants,
right,
because the koi.
I like to put emphasis on koi pond. If you're building a pond to support koi, you want it to be a purpose-built pond. They are domesticated fish that require a certain amount of cleanliness, so a filter is very important, and their health and well-being. And they grow large, so the larger your pond is, the better it is for the fish. If anybody wants to build a koi pond, I like to talk to them at length about it so that they know what the fish requirements are, so that they can be successful, because nobody likes to have pets that don't survive. So we want to make sure that they're successful. And water gardening with plants is a different subject, so to speak. It's a little bit less elaborate, and the fish will eat the plants, so it's important that we have a little separation there. If we want goldfish in the pond, they're wonderful in the pond, and they won't eat the plants or cause any damage to the plant material. And sometimes we want the plants to really shine. So a water garden set up for plants is an excellent way to enjoy lotus, water lilies, and many, many other water plants. And
in order to enjoy those water plants, of course, and have them bloom, you've got to have some sunshine. But that doesn't have to be full 12-hour-a-day sun.
No, you can have success with flowering plants in 4 to 6 hours of sunlight, and partial sun can be enough to support many plants to flower. And there are some water lilies that we can help you select that will do well in lower light, less light.
I know that you have brought along with you some of the pond filters and so forth, but won't really have time to explain exactly how to do that.
Probably not going to go into the filtration components so much today, but we did bring some things just in case if we needed to talk about it specifically. But I do recommend a water feature have a circulation pump. That'll help eliminate the problem of mosquitoes and provide oxygen. And anytime we can provide oxygen into the water feature, it helps the biological activity in that feature maintain itself. Oxygen's important for the water to be of a clearer quality, you know, because nobody wants to look at green algae-filled water. You can manage that with chemicals. There's other natural elements like barley straw and barley pellets that we can help you select. They'll help maintain your pond chemical-free, basically, or naturally. But circulation is important for any of these things.
Right, and talking about circulation, let's bring up the next picture, because wow. Now we do much larger gardens too. Not everybody has the space for them, and this one was very naturalistic. It was one that was done several years ago by one of our designers. I think it was Richard Lewis' job, but forgive me if I'm crediting the wrong person. But it's beautiful, and once it's actually created, it does need a different filtration system, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, it's nice to have a little bit of filtration, and filtration can be added as a step down the road if somebody's constructing a pond, as long as they leave a point to connect it in the plumbing. That's very easy to do. We can help you with that also if you need you know, a little consultation, a little assistance. But waterfalls are great because they provide motion and they give sound, and it's really nice to have the sound in the garden. And also moving water attracts wildlife, so you got to know that the birds and other animals may be attracted to the sound of water. Waterfalls are a little bit creative. You have to have a little bit of creative talent there when you're stacking those rocks, and watch your fingers, because some of those rocks can hurt.
That's absolutely true. Took this picture actually at American University that has beautiful gardens that are open to the public, James.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this was a sitting area.
Right.
So there's great value to having this water in the garden, I think. It is very soothing, and yes, it does mask noise too.
Yeah, if you have road noise nearby, the waterfall can generate that white noise equivalent, and give you a little bit of masking for noises that you may not want to hear in your garden.
All right, we want to go through some of these again very quickly because we do want to share all of these various ideas.
Yeah.
I was fascinated with this one. This is actually a work in progress.
Yes, this is a construction of a pond at the entrance of the house where the sidewalk actually crosses the stone bridge. I thought that was a very interesting way to place a water garden in your landscape. And the perennials have started to be planted. Some of the other plants have been installed and the foundation plantings are there. And this is a work in progress. It's a continued planting, but I just thought it was a great stone bridge going to the front door of the house.
I think it's fantastic, and we'll have to go back and see what they've progressed with that.
Here's another semi-formal area with the seating right adjacent to the pond and the staircase going up the hill into the garden. I love the semi-formal look with the patio, and this is a great way to enjoy a water feature at your living space where you could have a table set and enjoy the water feature anytime.
Okay, we've only got a second more, but let's share just my own garden for the moment. This is, believe it or not, very far from a next door neighbor, but it's a very wooded looking area and planted heavily so that there's privacy between. And it's a fairly decent, it won't accommodate koi, and I don't want koi, but
no,
I'm
but you've
happy
got
with
nice
the goldfish.
Right. You've got nice goldfish there.
And to see the waterfall itself in the next picture just a little bit.
Yeah. This is Peg's waterfall in her garden, and it creates great sound. And again, it's along the path where you find it as a point of discovery in the garden.
And of course the next one is really just a real cutie. Now you saw some cute little concrete frogs and...
Yeah, I always tell people if you build it, they will come. If we put a water feature in, I guarantee a frog will come to visit, and they're great in the garden. They eat slugs and many other insects, and they're wonderful visitors in the garden.
And you want to create a space where you can sit down and enjoy this. Here again, there's a sitting wall. This is built very much up, not totally above ground, but very much up, and there is a sitting area.
Yeah, due to the large trees and the root structures, this was built mostly above ground, and the sitting area is integrated into it. And I urge anyone that's considering a pond or a small water feature to consider the sitting area. It's very important to have that integrated.
I think so, and there is electricity available out there, and I made this discovery because I'm a mosquito magnet, okay?
Right.
The only way I can, and I use these mosquito beds. I'm very careful about that, but it's a wooded area and there's a stream, and so I found that when I know that we're going to be sitting out there enjoying that cup of tea or that glass of wine in the evening, I take a fan out.
Right.
And the fan going, the mosquitoes don't bother.
Yeah, fan can be a great non-chemical way to control mosquitoes when you're sitting outside.
Absolutely, on your patio or wherever. So, we're mosquito-free. We can enjoy that garden, and we will be back in a moment to enjoy more of this water garden. Yes, build it and they will come. Welcome back to Merrifield's Gardening Advisor and to our topic of the day, which is water gardens, which is very cooling after this warm week. And thank you, James, for being with us today to share any thought process that you have. And he's really weaving our way through some of these pictures to share thoughts with you as we go along. So along with the water are the plants.
Right. The plants are a big important feature. We like to have variety of texture and color, and there's so many plants that you can use. We've got many people at the garden centers that can help you with plant selection. Many of our perennial experts know there are plants that can survive with wet feet that would be suitable to use in the bog situation or in a water gardening situation, as well as in our water garden department we have plenty of water plants. Many different types of water lilies and other water plants that are just wonderful for different texture, different look, different colors.
And in the next picture, I think this actually happens to be, I made this one and there's no moving water in it, so I do have to put the mosquito bits in every couple of weeks. But there are dwarf forms of some of these plants too.
Right, again, like we were saying earlier, a small little water feature tucked into the garden. I believe this is a piece of liner, right, Peg?
It's a, yes, it is.
This is a piece of rubber pond liner that's been installed.
Which is wonderful.
Yeah, this has been installed on a very miniature scale, and some small dwarf papyrus is there in the foreground. That starburst looks like a firework exploding, and that's a tropical plant, but it gives a very interesting texture and leaf structure, and we use a lot of tropical plants in the water gardens and water bowls to give those little extra pops of different structure and color.
It's a wonderful part of the garden, and if you come back to us, James said you're going to make a mess. Well, yes, I do. I'm accustomed to that.
Yep.
But we were talking about keeping the ponds healthy.
Right.
And this one, of course, down in Florida, they're not terribly happy about it because it lives over winter, okay?
Right. This is a tropical water hyacinth. We sell these in the garden center. You only need a few of them to get started with because they do multiply rapidly. But we wanted to show the hair root system. This large root structure hangs down like a ponytail, and all that absorbs nutrient out of the water, and it helps to keep our water clean. And if we allow these to cover the surface of the pond, because this plant actually floats on the surface of the pond, if we allow them to cover about 60% of the surface of the pond, that helps control the temperature, which is important for our fish, as well as just the general health and well-being of the biology of the pond itself. And those plants are a wonderful addition to the pond. We bring them in April as soon as the weather breaks, and then you can install them in the pond. Now, I do recommend removing them in October or November, because when they get that first kiss of frost, they're going to turn brown and they're going to start to decay, and they want to come out of the pond and be composted. Here's a great picture of a water lily. A lot of people have interest in water lilies. People have been keeping water lilies in ponds for hundreds of years, actually, and this is a beautiful white, hardy water lily. This will winter over in the pond and come back the following year. They're perennial. They do require a little bit of maintenance. It's good to push some fertilizer tablets into the soil that they grow in. They grow in a pot in the bottom of the pond, and those pots can be elevated with bricks or flower pots to bring them up closer to the surface in the spring. We sell also tropical water lilies at the garden center. Those are going to have a little bit more flowers over the season. Tropical plants usually are a little bit more floriferous, and they'll generate more flowers. And really, we encourage people, if you want a lot of flowers from a water lily, consider a tropical water lily. It's like purchasing an annual plant, unless you want to winter it over, which they can be wintered over with a little bit of effort. But you get so much show out of a tropical water lily. You'll have 4 or 5 blossoms at a time, and they'll flower right on until frost. Really a nice plant in the garden.
Yes, and the next picture I think really does show someone who enjoys the plants as well as the water.
Right. This is a great picture of water plants in the garden. You've got a great selection of textures, and there's a little seating area there along the front edge of the pond, so you can sit and enjoy the frogs and the water lilies. Wonderful, wonderful layout, and simple but very effective.
I think so too. And the next picture actually will show, as James made a wonderful statement, the use of lights.
Yeah, I encourage people to consider lights in their water features or ponds. I work at the garden center, and I usually work the later shift, so I enjoy my ponds and my fish in the evening after dark with low voltage underwater lighting. And my fish are very active when I come home because they're waiting to be fed. And so we have interaction down at the pond, and I have the lights on where I can enjoy about an hour or so with my pond in the evening and enjoy my fish. I love this semi-formal area here. It's a wonderful patio with the integrated water feature and the lighted steps. Beautiful display, and really a wonderful place to entertain, as you can see.
Absolutely. Now the next 2 pictures are all yours, James.
Well, we wanted to remind everybody that it's a small world, but we want to enjoy the wildlife that does come to our garden. This little tree frog was visiting in Peg's garden, and I believe that's her grandson's finger. That's proudly he's climbed up to the end of that fingertip there, and he's looking for his next adventure.
And speaking of adventures.
And speaking of adventures and wildlife in the garden, this is Peg enjoying her water garden. And we have so much fun over at Peg's house. Her garden's beautiful, and it's just a real natural setting. Wonderful, wonderful place to be in the shade and listen to the breeze blow through the trees and the little waterfall.
It's really quite simplistic, built to enjoy,
Right.
Because gardening should be fun, all of nature should be fun. We should teach our children more about it and more than anything else, enjoy it. We
Right.
will be taking your phone calls, so give us a call at 703-387-1046. I have to be sure I can read that right.
Give the right number.
So we will be back in just a moment, and James is here certainly to hopefully answer any questions that you have about water gardening, but guess what? He can take the others too. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Maryville Garden Center's Gardening Advisor, and we are taking your questions now. But please remember that they're not limited to just ponds and water gardens, because James White, who's with us today, is an expert in many fields and also works the plant clinic area at our Fair Oaks location and is accustomed to seeing all of these things that we need to teach you about what to do and not to do.
Well, we try, yeah. We give guidance wherever we can.
Absolutely, and that's very important, because you know that's why we're there, is to be able to share that experience. And why has my plant died?
Right.
Well, maybe it was planted too deeply, maybe it's being kept too wet, maybe it's too dry. Right now I think it's too wet.
Yeah, we've had a lot of too wet, that's for sure.
So we are taking your phone calls, and we have a phone call now. Is there a call on the line?
Yes.
Okay, Gretchen.
Yes. How are
Hello.
you?
Good morning, Gretchen.
Hello, Gretchen.
Good morning. I love your show. I look at it every Saturday.
Thank you.
But I have a question about ponds. I've had one for almost 20 years now. And because we had a number of trees cut down about 6, we are getting a lot more sun than normal. And this year we had a real bad algae bloom.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
And what I decided to do, I let about maybe 1,000 gallons out of the pond and put more water in the pond with the, you have to put the stress coats and everything like that in it.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
it seemed to have settled down, as well as I put another pump in there to just circulate more water. Was that the right thing? I don't like to use a lot of chemicals.
Right. No, I think you've gone right in the right direction. A little water change is a good thing periodically, and circulation, I believe in good circulation in the pond helps a lot. Do you use water hyacinths on the pond?
Well, my fish, I have all koi. I have one goldfish and all koi.
Yeah.
They eat the hyacinths. I put them in there one time. They were gone by the evening.
Yeah. I should have asked about koi. They will devour water hyacinths. They love to munch on those. So water change is one of your best options. Also, you could use the barley products. That's another natural way to help create less algae in the pond. The barley straw or the barley extract. I find the extract a little bit easier to use, especially with koi, because we want to keep the water as clean as possible.
Right.
So sometimes it's referred to as barley tea. Sometimes when you read about it, they refer to it sometimes as barley tea, but it's a barley extract. And periodic, follow the maintenance schedule on the package, but periodic installation of that can really help retard the algae growth and help to maintain clearer water. You also might need to consider adding a UV light to your system.
Yes, I have UV.
Okay,
I have UV.
good. Make sure that your UV is always serviced as properly as possible, because that light bulb only lasts for a certain lifetime. But it sounds like you're doing the best you can with the loss of your trees.
Yeah, okay. Well, what do you think about MicroLift in that powder?
I do believe in bioaugmentation, MicroLift, OneFix, or EcoFix. All of those products I find useful, and I do use them in my koi ponds. And I definitely consider the maintenance schedule on those to be important. Those microbes that we're talking about, they don't have a good growth pattern, so to speak. They need to be reintroduced periodically, like reseeded periodically, and that's the importance of the maintenance dosages on those products. So I think you're heading in the right direction. Whenever you use one of those biological products, do turn off your UV light.
UV, right.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, and thank
you for your
you,
call.
Gretchen, for making that phone call. Those are very important questions, and do bear in mind that we're there for you. We have water experts at all 3 locations, and if one doesn't happen to be there the moment you call, we can always get back to you, or come in, of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, I believe we have another caller on the line. Is it Virginia?
Yes.
Hello, Virginia, and you're from Waldorf?
Yes, I am.
And what is your question today? How can we help you?
Well, I'd like to start out simple, like with that water bowl you have.
Yes.
But how often do you have to change the water? How do you prevent it from getting slimy? And do you have dirt in the bottom for the plants?
No, in these examples, these are all free-floating plants. These water bowls don't require any soil in them. We do recommend, you know, maybe every couple of weeks changing out the water in them. They do get a little bit of algae that grows on the inside of the bowl, but if you have the plants in there, you really can't see that, and you can just wipe that out with a paper towel and refill it and reinstall the plants. So as a maintenance thing, it's a real low maintenance idea for water gardens or enjoying water plants in the garden or around your living area. So the mosquito bits could be used easily to retard the larvae of the mosquito. So it's real easy maintenance, and it's a great first step into water gardening.
And you put it in the sun, or
you can put it in the sun to part shade. I know Peg has hers in shade at her house.
It could be either or somewhere in between, and yes, those mosquito bits should be on everybody's counter. I'm convinced of that. You know, so we do thank you and hope that helps you, Virginia, and good luck on your beginning with the water gardens.
Thank you. Love your show.
Thank you. We have another caller on the line, and I believe that it's Jim. I had a little trouble hearing from Bethesda, Maryland.
Yes, this is Jim.
Morning, Jim.
Yes, and your question, Jim?
My question is, I have a pond for about maybe 15 years now, and I'm having a lot of sludge on the bottom. The water's very clear. I have a waterfall and a good filter.
Okay.
Good.
So you said you have sludge buildup on the bottom of the pond?
I do.
Okay. Are you using the net in the fall to stop the leaves from going in?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So this is just natural biological materials that have gone into the pond over time and they've broken down?
Yes.
Sometimes that stuff needs to be extracted manually. It can only biodegrade so far with use of bioaugmentation, meaning the microbial treatments like the microbe lift and things like that. So, you know, things can break down organically, but they'll only break down to a point. Once there's not a lot of nitrogen or carbon left into that material, then nothing can feed on it or utilize it as a food source to break it down. So it actually needs to be physically extracted. That can be a little bit of a job sometimes. Every now and then, maybe every 2 or 3 years, it's a good idea to lower the water level and try to extract manually as much of that material as possible. It does generate an unhealthy condition over time because it creates an anaerobic environment, which is not what we want in the water garden. So either a net with a fine material to help scoop that out, or if you can, use a piece of tubing and generate a siphon flow. If there's any grade that falls away from your pond, you can use a 1.5 inch hose, makes a good vacuum siphon, and you can get that at the garden center. And use that as a vacuum, get the siphon flow started, and literally vacuum that material up. But I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. That is a little bit of a job sometimes, and it's definitely a thing that needs to be done.
What about the sludge muck buster or different things like that, chemicals? Do they work?
Those products work as long as there's some carbon or nitrogen in the material. As I said, once things break down and biodegrade to a point, they become inert. Where they're just there's not anything there to use as a fuel or a food source for any of the microbes or any of those animals or microbial treatments. So we get to a point where it's just non-biodegradable anymore, and it needs to be physically extracted.
Okay, guys, stop you guys. Wonderfully interesting conversation here, and you can see once James gets on a roll, he's on a roll. And we'll come back in just a moment, and we will talk more about your water gardens. Welcome back to Mary Fields Gardening Advisor, and we're talking about water gardens today, and we have James White with us, who's certainly a water gardening expert. And I believe, James, that you want to make a quick clarification before we go back.
Yes, absolutely. We told the previous caller, she asked about the water gardening bowl, and she asked a question about the plants needing soil. The bowls that we're showing here in the studio don't have any soil. They're just free-floating plants, but we did show numerous pictures of bowls and small water garden features that had plants that were potted. So depends on the depth of the bowl, but definitely some plants would require to be potted in a soil or a soilless mix. And many of those plants could be used in a small water gardening bowl with a small pot, or the pot could be excluded and the soil could be placed in the bottom of the bowl. But some plants that we have shown today did need to be planted in soil.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that, James. To add to that, don't use potting soil.
No.
Because if it's got perlite or vermiculite, that will float to the top of the
Right.
water. You want a heavy soil.
Right.
This is once where you can use heavy clay.
Right,
Okay?
yeah, you can use
Right.
heavy clay from the garden, or we do sell numerous types of
Yes.
water gardening soil that's
Yes, we do.
specifically designed for this, but potting mix won't work. The bark and the other elements will float.
Thank you for that clarification. And we do have Myrna, I believe, from Washington, D.C. on the line. And your question today, Myrna, is?
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling simply because sometime in the past you had mentioned that you can control mosquitoes
Yes.
in your back, perhaps by putting chemicals in a container. And I didn't get the name of the chemical that you have. That would,
Let's bring it back up and show it very quickly, because this works and it's natural.
Right.
You know, it's natural. It's not going to harm your birds. It's not going to harm the environment and
Right.
so forth.
Yeah,
and
this is
it
a-
will keep
yeah.
them down.
This is a great product. It's a natural bacterial product. These bacteria are impregnated on bits of corn cob, so it's an all-natural product, and this is a natural, not a genetic modified organism or anything like that. These bacteria infect the larva of the mosquito, the little wigglers that you see in the water, and it stops their life cycle so that they can't morph into an adult mosquito and bite us. So it's an excellent product, easy to use, and excellent for any water. You can use it in standing water. You can use it in a place in your backyard that stays wet, any place where a mosquito larva might try to survive.
Thank you
Okay.
for...
May I have another quick question? I have a greenhouse. Does your company service heaters for greenhouses?
No, unfortunately, I
No.
don't believe we do.
Not at this moment anyway, Myrna.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
and thank you for
Have a good
calling. And
day.
now I believe we have Michelle from Alexandria.
Hi.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Ken.
I have a little pond, and even though I'm using algicide, it's called Smart Pond, algicide, it seems like it makes the algae grow more. What am I doing wrong? And I have 2 little water features in it, so it circulates the water.
Okay. Well, first I'd have to say you want to make sure that you've done the little mathematical equation to identify the volume of your pond. You want to make sure that you're treating any chemical treatment, whether it's a natural or a synthetic chemical, you want to make sure that you're treating it to the proper volume.
Okay.
So that's critical.
There's one thing we have to do on these segments, and that's go off the air. Okay. So we thank you so much for watching us today. Remind your friends that we're now available on DirecTV, and come and visit us at Merrifield Garden Center and ask James White all the questions you'd like to, you know. Oh, did we still have a little? No, she's holding up her minute sign. Are we going out? Thank you for watching, okay?
Thank you.